Welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And that's Maggie. Maggie's eating her apple, so it's all over her face. Anyway, today's topic is realms of light, planes of light and darkness. And I think it'll be an interesting topic. I'm curious about exploring it with you and what we come up with and what your experiences are. But the premise is that the world reflects our experience of the world reflects our level of consciousness. And so we get to talk about that and just explore it together. Anyway, before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present, and let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine brilliant bright light lighting you up from the inside out, um, electrifying and energizing all your electrons, all your molecules, all your cells, illuminating, energizing, electrifying. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, fatigue, negativity. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding in your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing every cell and every organ, and bringing vital life energy throughout your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining stress, tension, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together. Really softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation and how really magical and remarkable it is to have sensation. Like, let's presence ourselves to the magic of that. So today's topic came from a conversation that I had with a friend, and it reminded me of a conversation from a long time ago. I have Actually, there are several conversations that sort of congealed to bring forward this topic of planes of light and darkness. And a lot of us have experienced travels in other dimensions, other realms where we've encountered other intelligences or beings or energies that are light or darker than light. Some kinds of scary experiences and other really transcendent experiences with these other energies. And I years ago had a friend. Maggie dropped her apple. Had a friend who was playing with energies in other realms, and um, she had a group of people that she was working with, and um, they would get together and kind of they were playing. We'll just say they were playing with witchcraft kind of stuff, but dark magic. It seemed dark to me. They were encountering all kinds of demons and dark energies, and it was an interesting thing for me to be aware of. And I just said to her at that time, why when you have the ability to travel in all different realms, why would you choose to be playing with those dark energies? Because what was happening is or people energies, whatever, were attacking each other. There were these battles going on, and it was very high drama and very dark. And I just didn't understand why she would waste her time and energy playing in that realm, in that dimension. And good morning, Rosalind. TGIF to you. Yes, it's been a big week for me anyway. It's been a long and very full week. And it's funny about how time goes in those, it goes slowly and quickly all at once. I don't know if you have the same experience, but what we're talking about today is planes of light and darkness, and how we get to choose where we're going to play to a certain degree. And the thing is that I know people who have had all kinds of experiences with energies from these different realms. I've had some myself, and where I wake up kind of paralyzed, be conscious and paralyzed, and there was this other energy, and it was not a positive energy. It was a pretty dark energy and really scary. And at one point, I remember being chased by this energy and being terrified and cowering. And in that, we'll call it a dream for lack of a better description. Um, I had a moment where, rather than allowing myself to be terrorized, now this was after a series of events where I would wake up in this sort of paralyzed state, astral state, and have be assaulted and have all kinds of weird stuff going on. And finally, in this one situation, this thing was chasing me and I was cowering. And then at one point, I swirled up into this sort of supernatural, humongous energy, and just was like roaring, and said to this other energy, "Don't you ever, ever come back at me again, ever." And that was the end of it. And good morning, Tammy. Welcome. It's great to have you here. We're talking about planes of light and dark. And I think it's interesting. I think that there there are energies that are that are dark, and I navigate away from the term evil. I thought for many years trying to understand what is evil, and I came up with a definition of evil that is separation, disconnected from connection, disconnected from love, disconnected from oneness. When we have this place of disconnection, that's where we have the capacity to do things that are evil. And for example, like what happened as an extreme example, the Holocaust, but there are so many examples of that kind of dissociation and separation from our humanity that exists on all levels of our culture. But anyway, I I'm in a confusion. I want your help with this. I want to hash this out with you. I don't know that we'll come to any kind of conclusion that's definitive in any way, but I was talking to a friend yesterday who had many experiences when going to sleep, of waking in this paralyzed state and having this other entity there just sort of sucking energy, like the Dementors in Harry Potter. And it was a terrifying experience for them. And I think that the assault that I was experiencing was somewhat similar to that, perhaps not as extreme as this friend. And it was interesting because they told me that at one point they decided that maybe the thing to do was to, they realized that the fear was feeding this thing. And so they thought, well, maybe the thing to do is to just surrender, to just not resist and not be fearful. And what happened was that at that point, this thing got even bigger and in a demonic voice said, come with me, kind of thing. Pretty terrifying. However, it was so over the top that my friend found it somewhat comical, and that kind of eliminated that ended it. Just like me rising up in fury here, realizing that this was sort of a comical thing, diffused the situation, and that was the end of it for quite some time anyway. And it occurs to me, like with this other friend that was playing in the realm of dark demons. I said, why play there? It's like playing in the kitty litter box when you could be on the beach. Why do that? And why not play at a higher level, a different dimension, a higher frequency? And I wonder if your experience, if you've had any of these weird, other than, well, we'll call them sort of supernatural type experiences, and how you've navigated them, and if you notice that there are dimensions of consciousness. And I wonder if, when I was having those experiences, I wonder if it was a reflection of my level of awareness. What I'm playing with is the idea that based on our frequency, we exist in different dimensions and we attract different types of experiences. And when our frequency is tuned to, I don't want to make this a right and wrong thing or a good or bad thing, um, but I'm wondering if when our frequency is tuned to different, um, or when we're tuned to different frequencies, if we have access, if we actually kind of catapult into different dimensions of being. That's the question. And so, um, at different frequencies in these different dimensions of being, there would be different types of energies. At least this is my imagining. I wonder if that makes sense, or if anybody can give feedback around that. What do you think? What's your experience? Because I noticed that my experience of the world shifts radically based on how I'm feeling, right? So if we're in a state of depression, the world looks like a very different place than when we're in a state of bliss. And I'm not saying that we consciously draw these energies to us. Although I think we can, but based on where we vibrate. So, for instance, if we are in fear, then that's a certain frequency, and it could potentially be hypothetical. I'm hypothesizing here. This is hypothetical, but I just wonder if when we are at a higher frequency, if these energies just don't exist on that plane, like at a I don't even know if I'll say higher, but at a certain frequency, perhaps those dark energies don't even exist. And I'm wondering if that's the case. I know that when we play on different planes of consciousness and awareness and encounter other intelligences, for lack of a better word right now. We'll say other energies or other, I'll say intelligences, that the assumption could easily be that because they're on this other plane, that they are more evolved than we are. And years ago, I learned, right or wrongly, I learned that that's not the case. That they these other intelligences or consciousnesses are not necessarily more evolved. So when we're traveling and trafficking in these other realms of existence, these other dimensions of consciousness, we get to be discerning, just like we're discerning in the 3D world, as to who we're going to play with and how we're going to respond to them. And what I, in my personal experience, I can say that recognizing my own sovereignty and strength in those realms is an important thing. And I don't know that I was always capable of doing that. You know, when we're moving through the unknown, you know, in like the really truly unknown, like where we don't even have expectation or understanding of what this other dimension of being might be, then one of the things that we get to do is to project safety and wholeness and integrity and strength, right? So that we can maintain ourselves in these other realms. I don't know if I'm talking out of left field for you guys. If you have had any experiences like this, my assumption is that it's more likely that you have than that you haven't, given that you're part of this Enlightened World Network group of people who have had lots of extraordinary experiences in moving into our awakening. And I don't know if I'm painting myself into a corner here. You know, I'm really in a phase of exploration to try to understand this. And there's I'm this is a day of curiosity and questions. So play with me here. Play with me here. Let's see, you know, what kinds of experiences have you had, and how have you navigated them? You know, I know that there are a lot of folks who get guidance, you know, who hear voices, who talk to angels, who travel in different dimensions, who have lucid dreams. We were talking about that yesterday. So Rosalind said Sally De La Rosa talks about this in one of her shows on EWN. So say more, Rosalind, because Sally had joined us several times a while back. I haven't seen her in a long time, but I think that it's really important to be clear, because I'm seeking to travel in other dimensions, and I have in different varying degrees. The thing is that I do believe that in those dimensions we have the capacity to main I'm going to say maintain our sovereignty, maintain our wholeness, our integrity, to be less susceptible to these influences from other realms. You know, like just the same way that we've talked about discernment while we're awake, you know, an honesty in terms of assessing situations and people, and um, knowing in our gut that we shouldn't be there, but then overriding that. I think that in these other realms where things are so much more fluid, we need to be ever more clear in those realms. So that Rosalind, thank you for sharing. She said that an entity, Sally De La Rosa said that an entity attached to her, and she talked about ways to do a clearing. Yeah, so this is actually what we're talking about. And you know what, we don't have to go to other realms to be talking about planes of light and darkness, because a lot of us are familiar with the notion of cutting of cords, and how there's this psychic connection that happens between people. It doesn't have to be in a psychic realm, you know, it doesn't have to be in another dimension, but you know, people gain attachments to each other and potentially draw energy or exercise influence through these connections. And so it doesn't even have to be a supernatural kind of entity. We could be looking at, oh, excuse me, I must have let something go there. Um, we could be looking at how we have these codependent kinds of relationships with other people, and talk about cutting of cords. And same thing as doing a clearing with these other energies. Um, it's interesting because I think when we come back to the notion of connecting to our hearts, our authentic hearts, and the power of love, that love, you know, love is, in my lexicon, is not just rainbows and sunshine. Love is um, the cleansing power of light, you know, to obliterate the darkness, right? So we're talking about light and dark. And so in planes of darkness or entities of darkness, what is darkness? Darkness is absence of light. So when we bring light, that's where we have our strength and our power. And I believe, and I'm playing with this idea, you know, I don't believe it with conviction, let's say, but I'm entertaining this idea that as we be more love, there's less of that darkness that can even come to approach it. And in cutting these cords, you know, whether it maybe cutting the cords is also just clearing our space with love, you know, allowing and inviting any other energies that are not part of our field to leave. This is something that I've been playing with lately. And it's not even just an invitation, you know, I say inviting, but we can also um, require them to leave by just making our field whole and full. And I'm curious, Rosalind, about what kinds of clearing practice Sally shared, but I see that we can envision cutting cords. And if we're going to do that, maybe we envision that we're doing that with a lightsaber of love, you know, the brilliant cleansing, purging power of love. Maggie's on the plant again. So you've got to imagine this plant. It's just the most amazing thing. It is, I keep talking about it, but its flowers are getting ready to bloom. And so it's called a night blooming Sirius. I'm going to see if I can put a a link to some images for you. It's just the most remarkable plant. So I'm just gonna see if I can give you a link to this on Wikipedia. You got to check it out because it is an otherworldly plant. We're talking about otherworldly stuff, but this thing is really out of this world. Check this out. There's a link. So once you see that, you'll see why I'm so protective of this plant that Maggie goes to go chew on periodically. Anyway, light. I think light and love. Yes, thank you, Rosalind. That's beautiful. Rosalind says we want to be a lighthouse, not a flashlight. Exactly, and that when we come into the fullness of the light that we are, that is our strength, and that is the truth of our being. And then those energies that can't, they don't vibrate at that level, they can't tolerate that vibration. Those energies are are banned. You know, they're uh, sent off into parts unknown. And so um, I think when if we're trying to travel into these other realms, or we're working on that, we're in exploring that, one of the things that we get to do is to be grounded in our light, and to keep that frequency, because it will repel anything that isn't that doesn't match that frequency. In fact, we wouldn't even, I would imagine that they're in different dimensions. It wouldn't, it's maybe not even that it would repel those things, it's that they might not even exist in that dimension of light and brilliance, and that intensity of directed embodied love. So, you know, we talk about love and light. And what is darkness? It's the absence of light. What is evil? If I don't think evil exists as a force, I think what it is absence of love. And that doesn't mean that that's true. That's my hypothesis. But you know, I've been working with that for some years, and that seems, I haven't I haven't found it to be not true yet. So yeah, it's interesting because I don't know about you, but I find that things sort of come in patterns. You know, like there's a theme that appears for a little while, and then another theme and another theme. And I don't know if it's a theme right now, but there's uh, there's a lot of conversation that I've been privy to around these other energies and entities, and how to deal with that whole thing. And my thought is that life reflects our beliefs. And Rosalind says, love and light. Yes, yes, exactly. Yes, yes. So I believe that our, again, holding with open hand that belief, but it seems to me that our experience reflects our beliefs, and along with that, our beliefs, our thoughts, I believe, are things in that they have a frequency, and our frequency is what is determining to great degree our experience, and the reality that we live in. And um, as we evolve, we gain a greater capacity to navigate these. Hopefully, that our frequency elevates, or that we become more whole and less attractive to the drama and the trauma and um, the extremes and the darkness, as we bring more light into our lives. So, curiouser and curiouser, what can I say? I'm just exploring and interested to see more of, I was going to say to see more of the truth, but I don't know that that's the case either. If the world reflects our beliefs and our frequency. So anyway, this is a Friday ramble. What can I say? Um, we can go into the weekend pondering these things, and really, it. I guess in the long run, maybe it doesn't even matter. Although uh, moving into the light, brighter and brighter, being that lighthouse, um, is is the way that I'm headed, and my guess is that you're headed there as well. So we might as well all go together, right? So I think that's it for today. I wish you an amazing weekend. I am so grateful to you for joining me for these conversations, and um, really helping to expand my perception. And I'm deeply grateful for that. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And this is Maggie still avidly eating her apple. And we go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please, while you're enjoying your weekend, enjoy the other programming on Enlightened World Network. It's an awesome community. And with that, I just will say thank you, and lots and lots and lots of love to you.